Hello and welcome to Recyclist. It's June 29th, 2026. I'm your host, Eric Provost, and this is your weekly roundup of all the biggest news stories from the world of waste, gas, and energy, presented by Diamond Scientific. First things first, and as always, let's take a quick look at the stock market and several stocks on the move from this past week within the world of waste, gas, and energy. Pretty good weekend across the board. Going into this past weekend, Waste Management was up to $227.59 per share. Waste Connections has risen to $169.36 per share. Casella Waste went into the weekend at $95.30 per share. Republic Services Incorporated hit $216.88 per share. GFL Environmental also up, now at $37.37 per share, and Montauk Renewables went into the weekend at $1.48 per share. But moving into the news, this past week, Chervron announced it will fuel a massive new Microsoft data center in West Texas under a 20-year agreement. The data center, called Project Kilby, is expected to consume nearly 2.7 gigawatts of electricity, equivalent to the power needed to run about 2 million homes, according to CNBC. Most of the electricity will come from large gas turbines fueled by Chevron's partner, GE Vernova, with Caterpillar providing the turbines themselves. Jeff Gustafson, president of Chevron New Energies, said, quote, "There's really no competition with local electricity consumers. In fact, over time, as we have excess power, we plan to push that into the grid to help stabilize it." End quote. Chevron expects to make a final investment decision on the project later this year, with the data center expected to begin receiving energy in 2028. And next, we previously reported on the production of the Sunzia project from Pattern Energy, spanning New Mexico and Arizona, that the company describes as the largest renewable energy infrastructure project ever built in the United States. That project has recently come online. The milestone marks the culmination of an 18-year development effort that involved permitting, financing, construction, and coordination among federal and state agencies, landowners, utilities, and local communities. The project combines over 3,600 megawatts of wind generation with a 550-mile high-voltage direct current transmission line, enabling electricity generated in New Mexico to be delivered across nearly the entire western U.S. grid. At full capacity, Sunzia is expected to provide enough electricity to power roughly 1 million homes annually. And up next, the LEGO Group recently announced the launch of construction of its largest solar park to date near its Denmark headquarters. The new park, scheduled to begin operation in late 2027, will have installed capacity of 116 megawatts and is expected to generate approximately 99 gigawatt hours of renewable electricity annually, enough to power 100% of LEGO's Denmark operations. According to the LEGO Group, the launch of the new project forms part of its initiative to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions across its value chain by 2050. Annette Stube, Chief Sustainability Officer at the LEGO Group, said, quote, "The solar park is an important milestone toward our ambition to expand our renewable energy capacity globally and reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. At the same time, it has been thoughtfully designed to support local biodiversity and provide a welcoming space for the community to enjoy." End quote. And next, this past week, the USDA announced its final regenerative feedstock rule is ready for release. The action provides a voluntary pathway for farmers to capture value from regenerative agriculture practices via the 45Z Clean Fuel Production Credit. According to the USDA, the final feedstock rule establishes a framework to connect regenerative agriculture practices to new markets within the biofuel supply chain for corn, soybean, sorghum, and spring canola. American farmers currently produce approximately 6 billion bushels of corn used annually for ethanol production, with 68% of corn farmers already implementing at least one regenerative practice. Likewise, producers grow approximately 1.8 billion bushels of soybeans for biofuel production, while 70% of soybean farmers already utilize at least one regenerative practice themselves. And just a quick reminder, Recyclist is a registered trademark of Diamond Scientific, an industry leader in gas analysis, instrumentation, and solutions. Make sure to visit them online at diamondsci.com. That's diamondsci.com. Or you can even set up a personalized presentation just by calling 321-223-7500. And also, don't forget to check out our website, recyclist.us, where you can find a recycling center and programs near you to find out how you can start making a difference in your own community. Now back to the news. A new study from NARA Economic Consulting warns that placing regulatory or permitting restrictions on renewable energy projects could trigger over $121 billion in unnecessary energy costs. According to the report, between 2026 and 2033, American households alone will face over $81 billion in increased energy expenditures. Over the period, the typical household will pay an extra $59 per year for natural gas and $26 per year for electricity if clean energy is not allowed to compete on pure economics. Commercial and industrial electricity customers will absorb the remaining $40 billion of the penalty, paying an extra $5.7 billion annually. Unsurprisingly, the report claims some of the more populous states could be hit the hardest, with Texas specifically looking at a potential 22% hike on energy costs. But up next, even with permitting restrictions, global renewable capacity recently hit 5.15 terawatts in a huge milestone. This is significant because it's right at the halfway point to the 11.17 terawatts target agreed upon at the United Nations Climate Change Conference in 2023. The conference, known as COP28, agreed on 2030 as the target year to reach the goal. The renewables industry has enjoyed record expansion since. According to data compiled for World Renewable Energy Day, solar power led global renewable energy additions in 2025 with 511 gigawatts of new installed capacity, followed by wind power with 159 gigawatts. And up next, Spain's Ministry for Ecological Transition recently approved a framework for power auctions to award regulated revenues to high-efficiency, hydrogen-ready natural gas and biomass-fired cogeneration plants, planning to hold two tenders of 600 megawatts each in 2026 and 2027. The competition will be open to new and refurbished gas plants, which must explicitly prove primary energy savings of at least 10% if the capacity goes over 1 megawatt. Fuel switching was also encouraged by the ministry, so plants that currently burn other fossil fuels can participate if they transition to clean biomass or high-efficiency natural gas. The ministry said the additional 1.2 gigawatts of capacity could avoid 8.4 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions over the regulated lifetime of the plants. And lastly, according to Waste Dive, the U.S. Federal Trade Commission recently cleared the way for Republic Services to acquire assets from TDX Associates, a North Carolina-based company specializing in thermal desorption. The deal includes a facility owned and operated by TDX that is co-located with an existing Republic-owned facility in Robstown, Texas. TDX says it has processed more than 1 million tons of hazardous waste and contaminated soil and sludge at its full-scale desorption units since 1992. The deal expands capabilities within Republic Services' hazardous waste treatment and disposal network, which now includes 24 treatment, storage, and disposal facilities, 15 deep injection wells, 9 industrial wastewater treatment facilities, and 6 active hazardous hazardous waste landfills, according to the company's 2025 annual report published this past February. And that will do it for your June 29th, 2026 News Roundup, brought to you by Recyclist. I've been your host, Eric Provost, and folks, don't forget to check out our website, recyclist.us, to find recycling programs and centers near you. And don't forget to stop by next week for another brand new episode of the Recyclist podcast. Thank you for listening.